Hello and welcome back to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Ferguson, writer for UCLA on SI. Today we're going to be taking a look at UCLA's huge win against USC, 81-62. Obviously, UCLA tore the roof down in Poly. They played great all around, and we're going to kind of get into that right now. But before we get started, I want to thank everyone right now who is watching Apple Music, Spotify, or even YouTube. It all means a lot to me. So how I kind of do these game review podcasts, I like to kind of break down one, what UCLA did well, what they did bad, and I also like to break down each player for UCLA, their performances, what I saw happen, but starting off with things that I thought UCLA did good. Offensively, the Bruins were great. Obviously, Donovan Dent's 30-point game helped, season high for him, but still, overall, I thought the Bruins were able to get good ball movement, attack the paint well enough. They shot 35% from three, and then they shot 49% from the field. Those are two huge numbers that are crucial in winning Big Ten basketball, and I thought UCLA came out there and did that perfectly. Not so good, obviously. I mean, not perfectly. That's a poor word to describe it, but I thought they were great. They made the shots they needed to make, and they capitalized when they could. And that's really all you can ask for with a team like this, who, again, right now they're ranked as a 10th seed in the bracket right now, but still, obviously a game like this is going to bump them up, and especially if they're able to sustain this. If their shooting remains hot, I could easily see UCLA make the tournament with no questions asked whatsoever. Obviously, there are a few teams who could, challenge. Obviously, the Bruins will have to play USC at USC, which could be a little bit more challenging. Again, these rivalry games are toss-ups. Obviously, UCLA got the upper hand, but UCA got a taste of it, and now they have time to regroup. That game could look a lot differently. But to kind of avoid, an upset happening or, losing to Minnesota or Nebraska, the Bruins need to stay consistent shooting the ball. Again, I thought Donovan Dent really kind of summarized how aggressive UCLA needs to be. He did well in pretty much all facets of the court. But again, I'll get into that a little bit later. I also saw a lot more effort on the floor for UCLA. Again, what this means is that the Bruins had struggled with, the effort, getting physical, things like that. Those were things that UCLA was lacking, and I thought they really made up for it against USC. When you kind of look at USC stats, they had, I believe, 14 turnovers, so you could tell there was more of a defensive emphasis. There'd be a ball passed in the paint, and you had Dent, Perry, whoever it was diving for it when it's a contested ball, and they got lucky on a few of them. They were able to knock it off the player, force the turnover. That's exactly what UCLA needs. They were also able to, what I also saw that UCLA did kind of in that effort in getting physical was they were taking fouls offensively. I mean, on the defense, right? We're not used to seeing the Bruins, stand there, get hit by, a driving guard forward, things like that. That is something that UCLA didn't do. There were a few times in this game where they did that, and I was so excited to see that because, again, it looks like this team is not scared to take a hit anymore. Again, Mick Cronin has been talking about it all season that this team is soft. They don't play with that physicality that makes teams great. But again, against USC, I thought they had a great showing when it's all said and done. And again, 14 turnovers. UCLA also made effort off of that. They were able to score 15, not the most points off turnovers, but again, they're still creating points when, they wouldn't have had it otherwise. So again, UCLA hustling in transition. I thought they did great on that. Diving for balls, deflections, things like that. They added up in this game, and you could tell that was taking a toll on USC mentally. And obviously, their performance kind of matched it, right? For example, Chad Baker Mazzara, he got frustrated a lot during this game. And, you can only credit the Bruins for, creating that environment where that is possible. Eric Freeney took a ball off the face. I thought it was a dirty play. I would have given him a flagrant 2 as a foul. Not trying to be biased, but I did not like how that play looked. He obviously had a foul, or a frustrated, foul against Steven Jamerson. I think Jamerson checked him, and then Mazzara checked him right back. Again, that is the frustration that you can create when you are playing hard basketball. If you're, diving for every ball, trying to go for a deflection on every ball, that is going to make teams nervous. They're going to want to be more perfect. And, that's when they are most prone to those mistakes, when they're not thinking about it. When teams played against UCLA before, they were not thinking about making these passes. USC had to think, and in that, because of that, they had 14 turnovers. If UCLA, again, if they can maintain this, this defensive aggression, I think they will be in a very good spot to make some noise in March and to finish off the season strong. Do I think they go undefeated to end the season? Maybe. It's definitely in the cards. Nebraska is a hard team to take down for sure. But again, UCLA has shown, over these last two games that they are capable of beating the best. And I think that was highlighted by a 20-point win over USC. And while USC is not on the same level, entering this game, both teams were 17-9. So UCLA clearly looking like the better team is something to, keep an eye on when evaluating UCLA's success come March. But yeah, overall, I thought UCLA played well. There were a lot of things that they could have done better, obviously, but still, I really like how they played. And honestly, the critiques that I'm going to give now are not really, damning. I'm not condemning, really. I mean, things happen like that. And that's really all you can ask for. But looking at UCLA's, stats from this game compared to USC's, it's clear that the Bruins still have a very bad rebounding problem. They were out-rebounded 41-31. That's a +10 margin on USC's side. For UCLA to still win by 20 is impressive in itself, but still, that's not going to slide against some better teams, that they might meet in March. Again, entering this tournament as a lower seed, you're going to find teams who are not going to let a rebound margin like that slide. And in turn, this caused USC to score a lot of second chance points. They had 15 second chance points on the night. And again, if you have a wide margin of second chance points, I think UCLA had 4 during this game. The good teams are going to make them pay. And again, I just kind of highlighted their defensive, how aggressive they were, how physical they were. But again, that got them in a lot of trouble. And again, USC did not have the best shooting night. They went 35% from the field. So again, it's a mix of both. Obviously, UCLA played, some of their hardest, most physical basketball of the season, in my opinion. But still, they left a lot of shots open that were just not capitalized on. Good defense is good, but there's a fine line between good defense and the other team missing shots. And I think UCLA is really riding that line right now. Especially when it comes to this game. There were so many defensive breakdowns. Mazzara, he went 8 for 16. He went 5 from 9 from the 3-point line. Again, that is just such a good performance from Mazzara. Obviously, I don't like him. He's dirty, whatever. All that beside, I thought he played a good game. He kept USC in this game. And that was simply because of all the breakdowns we saw defensively for UCLA. Again, moving forward, better teams are going to make UCLA pay if you're leaving open that many wide open threes. Thankfully, again, they missed a lot of them. And again, riding that fine line between good defense and the other team just missing shots. And obviously, USC is coming in on a 3-game losing streak. So obviously, their mental is not high. And, those shots, when they start missing, it's just a lot of self-doubt that's going on in a player's mind. And that's kind of why you see a repeat of these lacks of shooting performances. And that's a lot what I saw. But again, I think UCLA could do better. I mean, identifying one player's weaknesses is something I feel like UCLA can still adjust to. At this point of the season, if there's still a lot of good individual performances, that habits become harder to break. But in this case, I feel like if UCLA can really figure out what's going on and not let the other team's best player beat them that hard, I think they will be fine entering March. But yeah, to start, Mazzara, looking at my notes throughout the game, he went 4 for 4 from 3 to start the game, and a lot of those were not contested. A lot of them were open threes. And again, that is really hard to kind of, stop, right? When you're getting hot and, you just want to fly towards the ball whenever it's passed in, there's going to be shots like that open. And I thought UCLA was very susceptible to that during this game, especially moving forward. I hope they can kind of minimize that. I don't know exactly the defensive mindset kind of heading in, but whatever happened tonight, I thought worked well. But again, good teams will beat you if, shots start to fall. But now I'm going to go over some, individual breakdowns, players who I thought did well in that kind of sense. Starting off, obviously, I'm going to go with Donovan Dent. 30 points, 10 of 16, 2 rebounds, and 7 assists. Obviously 30 points is surprising, but how he got there was even more surprising. He went 5 from 6 from the 3-point line. Entering this game, I think he was sub 20% from the 3-point line. I believe in New Mexico he was a 40% 3-point shooter. So we're starting to see that version of Dent kind of come alive in full swing. Obviously, it's going to take a while for any player to kind of click in a new system, but now that Donovan Dent has, I think he is going to be absolutely phenomenal. I don't think this is a one-off. I think, looking at this game, we saw how confident Dent was. He started the game off hot. He went 3 from 3 from the 3-point line in the first 10 minutes. He had 10 points, in the first 10 minutes of that game. We saw a different Donovan Dent in this game, and I think now that he's found his confidence, his groove, his rhythm, and now he kind of knows the system a lot better, I think we are going to see him, make more, a more effort, offensively. This is the first time since March of 2018 where a Bruin was able to score 30 points against USC. The last player to do that was Aaron Holiday. So again, a historic performance all around, against a rival team. We obviously know that Dent is a big game player. He showed that against Illinois. Now he's doing it against USC. But he beat them in a different way compared to Illinois. So now that we know that what he's capable of, I think he will be able to build off of that well. And again, USC is a decent team. So to see him do this, I thought that was, that's a big thing for any player's confidence. That's what I have to say for Donovan Dent. Great game, A++. You can't argue with 30 points on, 10 of 16 shooting and 7 assists on the top of that. Just a great game, 5 or 6 from 3. You just look at that and you want to smile. Trent Perry, this is the exact game that I knew he needed to get. 13 points, 6 of 9. I knew entering this game, it's hard to, find those openings to, make an opportunity in such a loaded, starting lineup, right? I mean, obviously Dent is going to shoot, Sky Clark's going to shoot, Bilodeau, Eric Daly. They're all going to take shots. And for, Perry to make the most out of the 9 he was able to take, 6 of 9 is absolutely phenomenal. He also had 3 rebounds and 4 assists. Again, making the most of his minutes. Really a balanced performance from Trent Perry here. You just love to see that. He's going to be huge for UCLA to wrap up the season and, but beyond that in March. Again, I really liked how he was able to make the most of it. He was attacking the paint very hard in this game. He didn't take a single 3. Which again is not really like Perry, but again, showing that versatility, in the paint, mid-range, stuff like that. That is something, UCLA is going to need. And that brings us to the next player, Eric Daly Jr. Really bad game from him. Just 2 great performances followed up by Daly. 1 point, 0 for 4 from the field, 0 for 3 from the 3-point line. He had 1 rebound. He only played 18 minutes, so that kind of gives him some grace. But again, coming off of a 20-point game where he was the leading scorer and the rebounder, to put up a game like this, it's a little frustrating, but I think it'll be a second before he kind of finds his groove again. And let's just hope it comes at the right time. When he's on UCLA, really, it feels like UCLA can score anywhere on the court, but it was just not his game against USC. Looking at the other forward, Tyler Bilodeau, excuse me, 6 of 14, 0 for 2 from the 3-point line. He had 9 rebounds, a team high, 2 assists. He played 27 minutes. What sticks out to me the most is his 9 rebounds. He didn't score that great. I mean, there were times where I think he missed 5 field goals in a row. And, entering this game as UCLA's best scorer, that's not something you necessarily want to see. But again, I thought Bilodeau when he was able to get hot, that's when the lead really started to grow. And that just kind of shows how important Bilodeau is when he is hot. And if he can sustain that, which I think he will, I think, 13 points on 6 of 14 shooting, still a good game shooting, no doubt about it, right? But still, once those shots go in, UCLA, looks like a much better team. I'm not concerned about this whatsoever. I think, in UCLA's next game, he'll be able to, pick up those shots. I think we could see 15 plus in the next one for sure. again, kind of this was Donovan Dent's night. It's hard to kind of, find a rhythm when Dent is, taking 16 shots in a game, right? I mean, Bilodeau took 14, but still, again, it kind of threw off the balance of the court. Roles were kind of shifted around when, you kind of look at the stat line, but still 9 rebounds. That's something I want Bilodeau to, build on. He is the team's leading rebounder as of now. Again, such a huge piece for UCLA. Good game from Bilodeau. He didn't do anything really wrong. He had 3 fouls, but again, that's just him being physical and, kind of playing that 5 position where you are going to get a lot of heat in the paint. So yeah, great game from Bilodeau. Sky Clark, a little disappointing. I thought it would have been more of Sky Clark's night rather than Trent Perry's. He went 2 of 4, 0 and 1 from the 3-point line, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. He had 4 fouls and played 24 minutes. Again, that kind of plays into the physicality thing. He wants to get physical. 4 points, it's a little hard to kind of overlook, but this is kind of how Sky Clark is. We know his highs of highs, but he can be inconsistent at times, and I think this is just a case of that. But again, nothing to really be scared about. Obviously, again, Donovan Dent's night. Again, a lot of the roles, the dynamics were a little mixed up by Dent scoring 30 points and shooting the ball 16 times. But just kind of breezing over the bench. Another decent Xavier Booker game, 11 points, 3 from 8 from the field. He went 1 of 4 from the 3-point line. 4 rebounds, 2 fouls. He played 25 minutes. Not a bad game from Booker. Again, we're starting to see him play more of a center role. We like how he's been playing, right? He's being more physical in the paint, obviously. He wants to get rebounds. I mean, there's a lot of plays where, you looked at him and you were like, wow, that's a good player. But still, he has a long ways to go until he's where he needs to be. But still, this is a great, stepping stone for Booker to kind of end this season off. Again, looking at kind of at the bench, Jamar Brown, I didn't really like how he played in this one. He went in there, he missed 2 back-to-back 3-pointers. And when you kind of look at those shots, they weren't necessarily close. And again, that is not something you want to see, from that player who's supposed to be your forward depth. But again, when he's hot, and that's kind of what you want to see from Jamar Brown. Brandon Williams, I thought he made a good impact in this one. 2 points, 2 rebounds. He only played 5 minutes, so again, making the most of his minutes. Eric Frenny, shocking performance from Frenny. We knew he had it in him. We saw flashes of the player he was. He had 7 points. He went 3 of 5 from the field, 1 of 2 from 3. He had one called back after I mentioned earlier the Mazzara foul on Jamerson. In the paint, that was Freeney didn't have anything to do with that play. It was just a dirty play in the paint, completely outside of the play. But still, if he had that 10 points, I think that would have been a season high. If 7's not, but again, great game from him. Jamerson, he was quiet in this one. Again, I kind of expected his minutes to kind of drop, especially after the Michigan State game where he was ejected by Mick Cronin. But other than that, I think he is good. I thought he filled space well in this one. He played 6 minutes, had 1 rebound, 1 foul. But overall, I thought the Bruins played well in this one. There's a lot of performance that were questionable, obviously, as we kind of mentioned before. But still, when you look at the highs, they're obviously going to cover up some of UCLA's lows. And I thought that was the case in this one. But again, that's all I really have today. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. This one was kind of longer than I'm used to making, but still, just so much to kind of digest in a game like this, especially coming off of a win against Illinois. Again, I love this game so much. UCLA had a lot of great runs in this one, which is what you want to see come, March. In the first half, they went on a 12-2 run for about 5 minutes. That's a big chunk of time where you're scoring a lot more points than your opponents. But yeah, overall, great start for UCLA, especially in this game. Donovan Dent had 10 points to start the game. The other starters combined only had 5. That's something to kind of keep your eye on. You don't really like to see that happening, especially with such a loaded team like this. But again, it's Donovan Dent's night. Dynamics are going to be shifted. But yeah, so that's all. I was just reading off my notes and kind of things that I kind of skipped over. But anyways, that's all I have today. And as always, 4's up and have a good day.